Well, hello. Thank you so very much for tuning in to tonight's live stream. I am Plant-Based Gabriel. Thanking you so very much for, again, taking the time to join in. Tonight, we're going to be reading an excerpt from the new book, The Plant-Based Diet for Beginners, and it is about how to live, how to thrive when you don't feel like cooking, right? So you might not expect that in a book written with recipes about a plant-based diet, about a way of eating, living, cooking, right? That there would be a section on what to do if you don't feel like cooking. But I know that we all go through times where we don't feel like cooking. And so I wanted to, add that section in the book, but also covering it a little bit more in detail tonight in case anybody has any questions. Also, if you're tuning in, go ahead and say hello and ask any questions, and we'll be sure to answer them. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. So, and the book, I just did want to mention, the book does release December 10th, next week, next Tuesday. And if you haven't seen it already, we are hosting a party at Hang Space, just, to celebrate. So, Hang Space next Tuesday, December 10th. Hope to see you there. All right, let's talk about how to do it if you don't feel like cooking. So, here we go. And I'm reading from the book here. Doubling or tripling recipes when cooking dinner. Doubling or tripling recipes when cooking dinner is a great way to stock up on ready-to-heat meals for the following days. Now, that is a real great one that we really enjoy because Dr. Miller and I are always busy. Dr. Miller seems like she is always, she's, on the university, or she's doing something here for her classes. And so, hello, everybody who's tuning in. Thank you so much. It makes sense that we like to go ahead and make a double or triple batch so that we just have it ready. We have cooked, prepared meals. And that also could be, that could also be we'll go to number 2 here. Keeping cooked starchy staples, rice, beans, potatoes, and sweet potatoes, etc., in the refrigerator means you're never more than a few minutes away from a warm and satisfying whole food plant-based meal. Yes, so if you followed me for 2 minutes, you know that if I get asked, how do I adopt a plant-based diet? How do I make it stick? How do I really, how do I do it? So, my number one thing always is keep the cooked, simple, starchy staples ready to go in the refrigerator or in the pantry in the case of things like oats. But that's what we do. That is a great way to go about it because when you don't feel like cooking, that means that you don't want to take 15. It's normally a time thing, right? When you don't feel like cooking, it's not that you don't want to go get something nice and easy, or that you don't want to eat healthy, whole food, plant-based, or that you don't want to, eat things that are beneficial for your health. It's really normally a time thing, right? I don't feel like cooking tonight. It really has to do with the fact that you don't feel like taking 10, 20, 30 minutes preparing a meal. Now, that might not seem like a long time, but here's the thing. If you're keeping the cooked, simple, starchy staples prepared in the refrigerator, things like a big pot of brown rice that you may cook once a week, things like a big pot of black or pinto beans that you may cook once a week, things like cooked quinoa you might have in the week, or things like sweet potatoes or potatoes that you've baked 10 pounds of at the start of the weekend, kept them in the fridge, so you can just pull them out and either warm them very quickly, or you can go ahead and eat them cold if you'd like. So that is a huge, huge thing, especially when you don't feel like cooking. Hello, Margarita. Hello, Steve. Hello, Lorna. Hello, Cindy. Hello, everybody who's tuning in. Make sure you drop a question down there or just say hello. I love to see everybody's faces here, especially when we're going live in anticipation of the big book and the big party coming up here next week. So the next tip for when you don't feel like cooking is batch cooking and then freezing is another great way to stock up on future lunches or dinners for when your schedule gets hectic. Now, that is not something that we do, we being me and Dr. Miller, and we being Baby Miller coming this January. But that is something that I put in here because I know of how helpful and how big that's been for my in-laws, right? My father-in-law works a job where he actually has to be in at he wakes up like 3 o'clock in the morning, and so there's no time to really prepare something there. And my mother-in-law at certain times of the year works on taxes, and so she's busy. And so what they do is they will double or triple recipes, and instead of like what me and Dr. Miller do is we double or triple a recipe, and then we just keep it in the fridge, and we'll kind of just chow down or munch on that for the next 3-4 days, may get a little monotonous for some people. We enjoy it. But what my in-laws do is they'll actually take those double or tripled recipes, and she's gotten these containers that she can actually, they're freezer safe containers that she puts enough for a lunch in for my father-in-law and then puts them in the freezer. So they've got, just stockpiled all these healthy, ready to heat whole food plant-based meals that when it gets busy and they don't have, they haven't made a big dinner or they're just kind of low, they just don't feel like cooking or, that's it. They can go out to the freezer or he can go grab a dinner and either set it out at the night before to thaw a little bit before he heads off to work, or they can grab it that night, throw it on the stovetop or throw it in the microwave if you have one, throw it in the oven. You can do 1,000 different things there, but that is really, really handy. I know for them and I know for many other people. Let's see here. And the last one in the section here of other ways to take a break from cooking is organizing potlucks can be a great way to lessen the load and get family and friends involved in cooking whole food plant-based meals. Now, that's not something that's going to be practical for every single day. Are you going to have a potluck every other day so you can only cook? Well, that's not going to, but we're talking about ways that if you don't feel like cooking and say there's, it's going to be a busy time, the holidays, right? Maybe you're going to be hosting family or friends. Maybe you've got a big party coming up. It could be 1,000 different things. But the fact of the matter is that you may not feel like cooking. And so have everybody bring a dish. But don't have them bring a dish that's going to hurt everybody's health, that you're going to have to sit there and watch your grandchildren or nieces or nephews or aunt or uncle or grandparents or parents watch and destroy their health by eating some rich standard American diet fare. No, you're going to ask that they prepare a healthy plant-based meal or healthy plant-based entree, healthy plant-based side, healthy plant-based tray. It could be a casserole. It could be 1,000 different things. And you may want to say, hey, maybe you should make one out of that book I got you for Christmas. Just a suggestion. But that's a great way to go about it. And then I did want to just cover here, because I know I'm going to be asked it. This is in just kind of the subsection or just a note here of healthy no-cook snacks, because I do get asked a lot, and I know many of you have children, have nieces, nephews, grandchildren that are there at your home, and so you may be wondering, well, what should I cook for, snack-wise? If I don't feel like cooking and I don't want to just, warm up some oil-free rice and vegetable stir-fry or collard greens or, all these different things, what should I have on hand, or should I, have there for the, children, grandchildren, So we put it in here and I'll read it for you. Beyond keeping healthy staple foods and cooked meals in the refrigerator or freezer, having ideas for healthy no-cook snacks is a great way to stay on track with a whole food plant-based diet. Families with children may find it especially helpful to have convenient snacks around the house. The best snacks are in their minimally processed whole food form. This could mean keeping fresh fruit like bananas and apples always stocked on the countertop, a homemade trail mix made of dried fruit, nuts, and granola. And the granola on page 43 is an easy maple pecan granola, which I hope you guys try if you get the book. Is also a great option for a snack that travels well. When snacking at work or home, try keeping a bag of sliced vegetables, e.g. carrots, peppers, celery, ready to dip in some homemade hummus or guacamole. So, hummus especially, we got the hummus recipe in there. So, those are some great no-cook ideas if you don't feel like cooking. But really, when it comes down to it, my advice for most things when it comes to a plant-based diet, a healthy plant-based diet, is to be prepared. And being prepared means that you either have a bunch of the simple starchy staples cooked and ready to go in the fridge. You've got a bunch of baked potatoes, sweet potatoes. You've got a pot of brown rice. You've got beans. You've got these staples that you can take and put together really quickly and have a meal in 3 minutes or less. If you're using a microwave, 8 minutes or less. If you're using something like air fryer or conventional oven, toaster oven, there's a lot of different ways there. So that is really when it comes down, when the rubber meets the road. Having cooked simple starchy staples ready to go is so important. And if you think even more ahead of that, if you want to be even better prepared, then you can take those simple starchy staples. You make some healthy whole food plant-based meals, and you may keep those prepared meals in the fridge. And then you want to take it another step and just be prepared even more if you feel so inclined, or if your work-life balance is so, it kind of dictates that, then you can take those cooked and ready to go whole food plant-based meals, and you can throw them in the freezer, and you can have those ready to go for the next 3-4 months. And so you really don't ever have to be too far away from a healthy cooked plant-based meal. And like tonight, everybody, it's not gotten a ton of traction for some reason. I don't know if it didn't upload right or whatever, but I did post my sauteed collard greens from the Plant-Based Diet for Beginners. Really easy, less than 20 minutes. The recipe's only like 6 minutes on here, but the video I posted, but a really simple recipe. And for dinner tonight, I had an Instant Pot full of brown rice that I made, and which we'll keep in the fridge throughout the rest of the week and weekend. But took that Instant Pot full of brown rice and cooked the sauteed collard greens, which you can see that video for. And Dr. Miller got home, and what did we do? Scooped out some brown rice, put some collard greens on there, and she might have put some hot sauce on there. I put a little bit of coconut aminos, and just like that, we were ready to roll with a cooked and ready to go healthy whole food plant-based meal. We had our simple starchy staple, we had some vegetables, and who knows? We might even have some ice cream for some fruit tonight. We will see. I don't know. I haven't thought that one through 100% yet. But that is just an excerpt from the Plant-Based Diet for Beginners. Again, talking about what to do when you don't feel like cooking. And it's really trying to keep it as simple as possible. I know I mentioned it yesterday, but I will mention it again. The book releases December 10th, but the ebook released last week. And starting to get a lot of good reviews on there and a lot of reviews on Amazon. And someone had posted that, now this is just a testament to the book, and I'm sure is that they didn't like the book. And they gave me a bad rating, a bad review, and here's what they said. The recipes seem simple and too easy to prepare, like it wasn't a challenge, like they wanted to get a beginner's book and have it be a challenge to prepare the recipes. Come on, buddy. And beyond the recipes being too simple and easy to prepare, they didn't like the fact that I cooked without oil. They thought that was boring. Well, you know what I think is boring, buddy? I think being 50, 70, 100, 200 pounds overweight is boring. When you're too worried about cooking without oil is boring. No. It's the plant-based diet for beginners, so they're going to be simple to prepare recipes because whether you're a beginner, a novice, or an expert, easy, simple to prepare recipes are key to making this a way of life and not just a diet. And then the oil, there's absolutely no need to have oil in your diet. 100% no need to have oil in your diet. It's not health promoting. It's inflammatory, highly inflaming. It'll, one big thing that people notice cutting out the oil is, their joints just feel great because they don't have that inflammation-causing ingredient in their diet. But also, if you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to maintain your healthy body weight, you're trying to reach your peak physical levels, then yeah, oil has absolutely no place in there. So I'm sorry if you left a review and the recipes are simple, easy to prepare, and I show you how to cook without oil, recipes that don't include oil, and how to bake, saute, and roast without oil. I'm sorry that I made it so effective in the book that one guy didn't like it. But hey, you can't please everybody, and I don't think I was ever going to please that guy. So is life. So is life. Let's see if we got some questions in here. Hey, everybody who's tuning in. You know what? I actually have a special guest, Bubbles. Bubbles is getting a little heavy, but before we get to questions, I thought Bubbles might want to jump on here and say hello. No, don't look at me. Look at the camera. Bubbles, you're excited about the release of the new book, aren't you? She is. She's one of my biggest fans, She doesn't have a choice, though, do you? Do you? No. So, let's answer some questions. Let's see. Maybe Bubbles will kind of sit up here and see here. Emily says, how long do the starchy foods last in the fridge? Best way to store them? Well, Emily, that's a really good question. Foods like rice, beans, potatoes, and quinoa, sweet potatoes, I normally let them go about a week in the fridge. Some people say you cannot let them go more than 4 days. Well, I find that maybe if you kept your fridge really warm, but I find that all those foods are really fine after 5-7 days. I normally don't go more than 7 days. I will sometimes with potatoes. I find if I bake potatoes that they stay good. I just leave them, kind of leave them in the fridge. They're fine for 7-8 days. But they're, yeah, you don't have to be too crazy about it. If you do smell it, if you smell it after 3 or 4 days and you're like, well, maybe there's something in there that yeah. So yeah, about 5 to 7 days, I would say. All right, Bubbles, let's see what else. Courtney says hello. Well, Jan says hello. Marlene says hello. Hello. Amanda says hello. Nicole says cold sweet potatoes are so good. They are. My mom is a big fan of having cooked sweet potatoes. Likes to cook them in her electric pressure cooker, just like I do, or bake them. Keep them in the fridge, and we just eat them. I mean, I do all the time. I normally keep a ton of them around because I'll just eat them like you would maybe a banana that you keep on the counter. I'll, go in the fridge, grab a cold sweet potato, and there's a snack. Great for kids, adults alike. It does not, Bubbles, let's yell it to the rafters. It does not have to be complicated, ladies and gentlemen. You can keep it simple, and you can keep it delicious. You can keep it healthy, and you can do it forever that way. And that's what we found, and that's what we're really hoping the book can really be a good test. Can really be a good testament for that. Marlene says hello, Amanda, everybody. Gina says hello. Hey, hello, Gina. Christiana says hello from Melbourne, Florida. Probably similar weather to Melbourne, Australia, I'm guessing. Clayton says hello. Ladine tuned in. Maria says thank you for your awesome. Well, you're so welcome. Laura says, do you stick to set meal times? Well, Laura, Bubbles, I'm going to put you down because you're getting a little heavy. I know you want to be up here with Dad. But Bubbles, say goodbye. It's like I'm a ventriloquist on these lives, right? This is not a puppet. This is a live bulldog in studios on set. All right, let's see here. Laura says, do you stick to set cook time? No, just because of our schedules, right? Some days we'll have dinner at like 7 o'clock. Tonight, Dr. Miller was working late on campus. We had dinner at 9 o'clock. And so it really depends. We really don't have a set. Normally we eat 3 meals a day, 2 meals a day if we're really busy. But it's normally 3 meals a day. Breakfast when we get up, lunch sometime when I get hungry in the afternoon, or whenever Dr. Miller takes lunch, she'll eat it whenever she gets hungry. And then dinner is normally whenever we get both are home at the same time, we will sit down to eat. That could be 7, 9 o'clock. So Maria says, with quinoa and rice, do you add a little broth or water when you reheat it? You can. I find that depending on how you cook it, it sometimes doesn't need any more liquid. Sometimes it does. If I'm going to reheat it on the stovetop, which we do often, I will add some water or vegetable broth, just a little bit to, I bring the dogs up here and they make me gotta sneeze, get a little itchy. But yeah, I will. But if I'm going to cook it on the, like in the toaster oven, warm it up. We don't have a microwave. If you have a microwave, you really don't need to, I don't think. But you can, if you'd prefer it just to be a little bit more moist there, you definitely can. Leslie says, hey, Gabriel from Pennsylvania. I'm so glad you tuned in, Leslie. Jan says, do you suggest freezing food in plastic or glass? Love the double, triple batching recipes ideas, because the last thing I want to do after a long day is try to figure out what to make. Well, Jan, I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed that one. Yeah, double, triple batch recipes is amazing. Plastic or glass? That really is going to be your preference there. I'm not going to say that one. Yeah, yes, if we could all use glass and we could cut out plastic, yes, that would be great. But convenience-wise and getting started and maybe sticking with plant-based diet, if you find that using some plastic microwave-safe or freezer-safe containers is going to be more helpful, then that's going to be more helpful. So I know that we do both. We've done both, and so it's really going to be what you feel comfortable with as well, or how you're going to be rewarming it up would be the other case. If you're sometimes you feel it all you got to be careful microwaving glass that's been in the freezer, and you got to be careful with microwave anything plastic, so that can be a little tough. But best case scenario is you kind of keep things in the freezer, you kind of let them thaw out, and then you maybe move them to if you're going to let them thaw out the night before, you can maybe move them to a glass container that you could take to work, say, to warm up in the microwave that's not going to be freezing cold when you warm it up. Jan says granola. Yes, granola is in the plant-based diet for beginners. I will hopefully do a video on that maybe this week. We'll see. But if not, you can see it in the book here next week as well. Catherine says, do you have a tip or ways to dry fruit without a food dehydrator? Catherine, that's a great question. We do have a food dehydrator just because I kind of got bubbles. The dogs are down there just It's like they're trying to annoy me, you would think, right? They're trying to annoy me. They're not, though. But when it comes to dehydrating foods, yeah, you could actually use, or fruits, you could use your oven and baking sheet lined with parchment paper. And some people say 185, 200 degrees. And you can actually, if you wanted to help dehydrate even more, you could. It's going to be a while. It's going to be in there for a while, but you can actually put like a wooden spoon in the, don't leave the house, but have a wooden spoon in there with, the dogs are down here. Stop it. Move. They're like trying to see who can sit by my feet closest. Sorry. I hope, yeah. All right. So, I will do that. Sometimes you could use a parchment-lined baking sheet. You can slice the fruit up, put it in the oven about 200 Fahrenheit. You can check online to make sure about that temperature. It could be different for some different fruit, and the times are going to depend on how thick you've sliced the fruit and also the type of fruit you're using due to the moisture content. But yeah, you can definitely do that in the oven very easily. Maria says, I share your recipes with everyone because they are so easy and minimal ingredients. They are super. Thank you so much, Maria. Tina says, what do you use for salad dressings? Well, I shared a lemon poppy seed salad dressing did I share it this week? I think I did share it this week. So there's a lemon poppy seed dressing that I shared this week. And that one you could use. And we use a lot of times balsamic vinegars, different types of balsamic vinegars. That's a really good one. I know Chef AJ really likes her balsamic vinegars, and Ann Esselstyn really loves her balsamic vinegars. Those are great. And you also, the 3-2-1 dressing would be one to check out from the Esselstyns. 3 parts balsamic vinegar, 2 parts mustard, 1 part maple syrup. Or I like to do 3 parts balsamic vinegar, 2 parts maple syrup, 1 part mustard. But yeah, there's a lot of. Here's what I recommend a lot of people do: go to forksoverknives.com and type in dressings on their website, and there's a ton of great options there. That's normally the go-to place that I like to send people. Patricia says, you should add subtitles so we can read to understand what you're talking about. I don't understand it all. I'm hard. Well, Patricia, I apologize about that. Here's what I would recommend. I can't add subtitles as I'm speaking because, I just can't do that. But if you come back, like when the live stream is done, Facebook normally adds the subtitles in, or I normally add the subtitles in, just have them auto subtitle. And so if you don't want, watching live is great, and I appreciate everybody here, but if you do need subtitles, watching after the live has uploaded onto the page, you will get subtitles. Debbie says, I love your simple recipes making your fries. I'm so glad to hear that, Debbie. That's amazing. Lynn says, the guy who left the bad review is nuts. Yeah, he might be a little bit. We don't know. I don't know. Kathy says, made the marinara sauce tonight. Easy and yummy. So glad that you liked it, Kathy. Maria says, the reason I love your recipes so much is because they are easy and anyone can make them. Well, thank you so much. Brenda says, thank you. Well, you're welcome. Ashley says, I love how easy the recipes are. Well, thank you so much. I know there was just a bad review on Amazon. Someone just didn't like how simple the recipes were. His loss, I guess. Catherine says, simple recipes are great. Too bad you don't do cutting tips for significant others who probably should do the chopping, slicing. Well, here's what I will say, Catherine. Yeah, I do use a lot of seasonings and spices and herbs that are like dried, so I don't do too much chopping of onions and garlic, things like that. I'll use a lot of garlic powder and onion powder and not so much of the real thing, right? Just because I like to cut down the cooking time. All right, Bubbles. You can come up here if you really need to, but my goodness, I can't have you down there. Oh, all right. We're adding another one in human form here in January. Yay! All right, let's see here. Stop. I don't want you to lick me. Emily says, I love when you show your dogs. Well, apparently Bubbles does too, because she's been bugging me down there, and now Bella's down there trying to get up on my lap. So we're a mess tonight. It's a mess. Joanne says, need crunchy, salty snack ideas when I have cravings. Well, Joanne, I will say that all the recipes in the book are salt-free. Doesn't mean you can't add salt to the recipes or add some soy sauce to them. Or it's, vegetable broth that has some salt to it. But what I do recommend is we've got our kale chips, the kale chip recipe in there, which is a great one. I know it's helped my dad a ton. And actually, if you go to my YouTube page, or on the Facebook page, you can find the recipe for those kale chips. Or if you get the book, you can also find the recipe for those kale chips. Bubbles, you gotta stop. All right. Sherry says, "Am buying your book when it comes to Barnes and Noble because I don't buy online." Well, it's all right. Well, great. And also, Sherry, I will say that you can also get the book at your local bookstores if you give them the author name and book title, and also the IBSN. If you want to just get that too, you can also have them order it that way. So if that helps. Excited for you to get it. Emily says, "Thanks for answering my question, Gabriel, except you forgot the second part. How should you store those starchy foods?" Oh, sorry, Emily. Oh, how should I store them? Here's how I store them. Bubbles, are you okay? We with rice, we will store that. I normally cook it in the Instant Pot and then have it ready to go in the fridge, just in the Instant Pot. Actually, if you have an Instant Pot or electric pressure cooker, I really recommend getting the silicone lid that you can get on there that just is, all right, you want to go down now? All right. The silicone lid that just covers over the top of it, and that works really great. So we keep them in there, or we keep them in a glass. We have glass refrigerator safe containers that have the kind of the sealed lid that snaps down, and so that's how we keep them. We do the same thing with beans and quinoa, and then for potatoes, I will normally bake so many potatoes that I really don't have a container to store them in. You could use a Ziploc, I guess. But what I do is I take those potatoes, a big 10, 15-pound batch of potatoes, of sweet potatoes and white potatoes that I'll cook, and then I will bake them, pull them out of the oven, let them cool down, and then I've got just a Tupperware base, or just a base, even the glass 9x14 baking dishes. I'll slide that into the top part of the fridge, and I'll just stack the potatoes in there uncovered, and they're normally fine for 7 days, 10 days sometimes. There's not much moisture in those baked potatoes, and so they don't spoil very quickly at all. I hope that answered your second part of your question, Emily. Carrie says, hello, Carrie. Sandra says, I'm glad to hear that. Nirva says, "Do you check your B12 regularly?" I do not. But I do take a vitamin B12 supplement, and I do recommend taking a vitamin B12 supplement. The only supplement I recommend taking, no other pills, potions, powders, protein sources, or anything of those sorts, just vitamin B12, and you'll be all right. We take just once every other day B12 vitamin. Let's see. Maria says, when we eat all the starches, how do you lose weight? What is the hard part? That is the hard part. Well, actually, Maria, if you build a diet around simple starchy staples like rice, beans, potatoes, oats, corn, quinoa, and you're doing it a part of a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet, meaning that you've completely eliminated oil, you've completely eliminated all animal products from meat, milk, eggs, dairy, and fish, and then you've cut down and if you're trying to lose weight, you've cut down on the high-fat plant sources, things like nuts, seeds, avocados, limiting those to around an ounce a day, if that. That's not a requirement. That's if you really, really got to have it, you can have an ounce a day. But you do that, and you're eating a high carbohydrate, high fiber, low fat, healthy, whole food, plant-based diet, then the carbohydrates are your best friend, and you can lose the weight that you'll need. Now, does it happen that you lose 10 pounds in a week? No, you're going to lose weight at a healthy rate that's sustainable for you, not only continuing to lose weight, but keeping it off. So myself built a diet around simple starchy staples like rice, beans, potatoes, oats, corn, quinoa, and I lost at an average of 1 pound a week for 2 years. So I lost 100 pounds over the course of 2 years at a healthy rate. And if you have any more questions about that, shoot me a message. I'd love to send you some links and get you some information on that. But yeah, that is, we've been brainwashed by everybody and their mother that carbohydrates are the enemy, when it turns out that carbohydrates from whole plant sources, not talking about white sugar, white flour, we're talking about potatoes, sweet potatoes, rice, beans, corn, quinoa, things that people in populations have built diets around for thousands of years, and have not experienced and did not experience the chronic diseases that are plaguing the modern world, like type 2 diabetes, obesity, and heart disease. And so I hope that answers your question. If not, we can talk about that more. You can always shoot me a message, and I can send you over there. Sherry says, "I'm late again. Grandkids are well, I hope you have a wonderful time with the grandkids, Sherry." Michelle says, "Countdown is on. I'm like a kid waiting for Christmas morning to arrive when it comes to receiving my..." I'm so excited to hear that, Michelle. I really do hope that you love it. Tanya says, "Hi from Adelaide, South Australia." Well, Tanya, so glad to have you today. Travis has joined in. Sherry says, "Love your simple recipes. The guy who left a bad review has brain..." Oh, well, he was just, I don't know. Maybe it was a bad day. Cindy says, "Beautiful food. Love your garden." Thank you so much, Cindy. Thank you so much. Michelle says, time for plant-based cookbook for the pups. We'll see. Bubbles and Bella, I don't know, they're kind of annoying me tonight a little bit, so we'll see what we'll see if they get a book or not. Travis says, excited for your book, bro. I'm so excited that you're going to get one, Travis. Thank you so much. Hope to see you soon, man. Hope to see you soon. Cynthia says, hello from Kentucky. I will be getting a book. So excited for you to get a book, Cynthia. So excited. Again, the Plant-Based Diet for Beginners releases December 10th. December 10th, next Tuesday. And if you're in the Richmond area, head out to Hang Space 7 to 8:30 on December 10th for a party we're hosting. Book signing, get together, just a great old time. Let's see here. Michelle says, Bubbles looks chunky. That's kind of the angle. Bubble, she just walked out of the office and stopped, her and Bella were sitting at my feet, like fighting, vying for space. Who could sit closest to my feet? And then now when I'm gonna pick her up and now she's gone. So, all right. Yes, Bubbles, they stay the same weight. They're good. Lynn says, what kind of kale do you use for your kale chips? Well, Lynn, I think everybody who has access to kale at least has access normally to, and Bubbles and Bella are back at my feet. Normally has access to curly kale at the minimum. So I use curly kale a lot of times for kale chips, just for the fact that I know that it's really going to be accessible to everybody. I've also used things like dinosaur kale, right? That flat kale, many people know about that one. That one works great. Also use premier kale. You could also use collard greens. You could also use Swiss chard. It does not have to just be a certain type of kale. You guys need to, come on. They're being ridiculous. But it doesn't have to be a specific type of kale. We'll just say that. But I do like curly kale because it holds up really nicely for those chips. They have some ridges and just add some texture there. Kristen says, hello from upstate New York. Well, hello, Kristen. Thanks for tuning in. Nicole and Christy tuned in. Great to have you. Shelly said, I made your apple crisp for dinner. Added pears to it. They loved it. So glad to hear that, Shelly. I'm really glad to hear it. Maria says, I'm sorry I lost my connection. Do you add some broth to the quinoa to make it more moist when you reheat it? You can. If I'm using the stovetop for rice and quinoa, I will add some water or vegetable broth. If I'm going to warm it up in the toaster oven, or if you're going to warm it up in a microwave, you really don't need to. The moisture normally stays there. But heating on the stovetop, I do find that some moisture is lost, and so adding a little bit in there can help. And also helps without things sticking. Michelle says, vitamin D. Yes, I do take a vitamin D every single day, Michelle. And I do that by being outside for at least a few minutes a day, if not longer. And I really load up on it on the weekends where I'm outside. Try to be outside most of the day. I know that's not exactly what you were saying. I just, vitamin D, the best source is being outside, being there in the sunshine. And yes, if you are deficient on it, or if you don't have access to the sun, if you are up in Alaska or at certain parts of the year, then there may be some need for supplementation, but I don't recommend supplementation without the blood work done first. So get your blood work done, and if it does show that you are low on something, then it may be warranted. But it's not a recommendation to say that everybody should take it just as a base level. I hope that helps. Camellia says, is coconut oil okay? Well, Camille, no, it is not. So in the book, I actually cover it here. I know that's a question that many people have, especially when we start talking about when we start talking about, I just want to make sure I find that part here. When we start talking about oils, right? We start talking about, some people, you think, well, some are healthier than others, right? Or this oil is that. Well, and it's a common question, and it's not to pick on you at all. It's just to say, here's the response. This is from the Plant-Based Diet for Beginners. When thinking about oil in your diet, you may be wondering whether some oils are healthier than others. In 2007, a study was conducted to determine the effects that olive, soybean, and palm oils had on healthy individuals. That study, published in Nutrition, Metabolism, and Cardiovascular Diseases, found that any type of oil had an adverse effect on endothelial function and increased triglycerides. For these reasons, the recipes included in this book will all be oil-free, and I also include ways to cook without oil, ways to saute without oil. Here's the deal with oil, and I know that wasn't specifically saying coconut oil. When we're talking about taking one specific part of a plant and expeller pressing it out, mechanically pressing it out, chemically pressing it out, removing that fat and we're concentrating it in there, there's just no need for it. There's no people and populations that wilted away because they didn't have access to oil. Because when you think about people and populations who have lived for very long times, who haven't experienced, again, the chronic diseases, the obesity, the overweight population that we're experiencing here in the Western world, standard American way, is the fact that they would never think of taking, 1,000 olives to press it down to have just a little bit of oil, right? Some populations have, but those populations are small and not as long-term as we're talking about here. Or they've taken, they've not taken, and again, some people have, but now it's become mechanized, so it's much more available. 1,000 coconuts to create a thing of coconut oil. Here's the deal. If you're worried about your healthy fats, which if you're eating, here's the deal. If you're eating enough calories from whole plant sources like rice, beans, potatoes, and fruits and vegetables, you will be getting enough fat. You don't need to add in any high-fat plant sources to reach certain levels of, healthy fats. Guess what? The healthy fats you need have been given to you in the perfect package that nature intended, and that's in whole plant form. And if you do that, you eat enough calories from whole plant sources, then you're going to be more on your way. But no, is coconut oil okay? No, it is not, because it is 100% fat. It is 9 calories per gram, meaning that it is the most concentrated form of fat that you could be adding to your diet, which does not help with weight loss, and it's definitely not going to help with maintaining your healthy body weight, and it's just not going to help maintain your overall long-term health as well. Emily says, thank you so much. I'm so glad to hear that. Brenda says, you're awesome, Brenda. You are. Maria says, we made your wonton recipe and they were delicious. So glad to hear that you like those, Maria. Camille says, what if you're not able to purchase organic greens? Well, Camille, there are some. Here's what I would really recommend if you're not able to purchase organic greens. Well, and first of all, greens aren't a critical part of a plant-based diet. Could you eat a healthy plant-based diet without ever touching greens? Sure. Is it going to be optimal? Maybe. Are you going to enjoy it as much as if you had fresh greens around you all the time? Probably not. So I do recommend eating greens, not daily, not as a you have to check it off to eat this if you want to live a long time on a healthy plant-based diet, because that's just not warranted with how other people and populations have lived. But here's the deal with greens. If you don't have access to organic, which I will say, just to mention here, I did add the Clean 15 Dirty Dozen in the book. And you will see that in the Dirty Dozen, there are things like spinach and kale are big ones that did make their way on the Dirty Dozen because of how pesticide-laden they are. And so a question a lot of people have is, well, what should we eat? How should we be healthy if we can't have kale from those sources? Well, here's what I do recommend. First of all, I would recommend organic is just a label. And yes, if you're in the conventional grocery store, organic does mean that it's going to hopefully be, less pesticide ridden, less residue on it than conventional produce. But it is a label, and that's a label. So if you don't have access to that, then maybe even the better option, but the next best option is to look at local sources. There are local urban farms around most cities now, even small cities, small rural areas have local farms now that are growing bio-intensive or organic, but not certified greens and produce. And so that's where I would really recommend. I'd recommend looking at if there's any CSA programs that you don't even have to enter the CSA or join the CSA, or farmers markets that you could get. I know not everybody has full year-round farmers market access, but I would look into that. And I would also say that I don't really buy any greens from the grocery store ever, because I grow them on the farm here. And to do that for our family does not take up a ton of space. And so I do have some videos out there on plantbasedgabriel.com or on my YouTube page. And also I'd recommend maybe checking out Charles Dowding if you're going to look into growing some food. But here's the other thing. If all you have access to is conventional greens and you really want some greens and you got to have those greens, then go ahead and have those greens. The amount of pesticide residual, on those greens is not going to be at a level that's, if you're putting, 16 ounces in a smoothie every day, well, that's a little different than having, a pound of greens sauteed here and there a little bit. So, clearly organic is our first choice, but even then, go for local. See if you got some local sources. That's what I would recommend there, Camille. Sherry tuning in about the oil. Love it. Love it. Crystal's joining in. Maria says, your recipe book will be my favorite gift to give. I'm so excited to hear that, Maria. You know, that's the thing that, just so everybody knows, that there's not a picture for every single recipe in this book. And did I wish that there was? Yes. But here's the deal. Just because, for that comment there, Maria, I wanted to make sure the book was at a price that it was able to be gifted and given and accessible to every single person out there. So not only can you get a book and it's at a price where you can get this book, but also you can get a copy or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 and gift them out to people that having their hands on this could really change their life. And that's what I'm really, really focused on, is the fact of how many lives can we change with this book. It's changed, the information in it changed my life. I lost 100 pounds and regained my health. The information in it has changed my in-laws' lives. After getting a breast cancer diagnosis, my mother and father-in-law decided to get on a plant-based diet. My father-in-law got off his medications. Mother-in-law is healthy now. My parents, how does it, the information in here was information that helped my family. My mom, dad, sister, mom losing 70 pounds, dad losing 75 plus pounds, sister losing 60 pounds, right? The information in here is to help as many people as possible, and that's our goal, and that's what we're hoping for, especially around the holiday season and especially around New Year's resolution time. There's no better gift that you can help give than someone regaining their health and finding their true health. Let's see here. Camille says, is there an audible version for your book? There is not yet. I am talking to my publishers about it. We will see about that. I can't give any guarantees about it, right? Because there are different book rights and different deals and things like that. And so hopefully there will be some time here in the near future. Maria says, have you ever eaten Russian kale? Do you know where to buy it? It's delicious. I'm assuming you're talking about red Russian kale. Yeah, red Russian kale is a lot of times you don't see it a ton unless you go to a specialty market or a farmer's market where you see full-size red Russian kale, which I will say we grow here on the farm, but because we enjoy it. And so I will say it's a lot sweet. We find it to be a little bit sweeter, not as bitter. It's great. But what you do see is red Russian kale added to a lot of salad mixes because it's very vigorous. Here's what I found. It's very vigorous growing as a seedling to grow up to about 4 inches, which is perfect for your salad mix, your spring mix size. So a lot of urban or small scale market scale farmers will grow red Russian kale for that. But I do find that as it gets a little bit bigger, I find it's not as vigorous as things like curly kale, premier kale, dino kale. And that's just my experience with it. But yeah, we really love it. And what was the question? Do you know where to buy it? I would recommend going to farmers markets, market scale farmers who either have CSAs or have drop-offs or are at farmers markets are going to be a good option there, because it's not conventionally grown for most supermarkets, just because it's not as well known as curly kale for a lot of people. Camille says, what type of salt is best? Well, we don't worry too much about that, because here's the deal. We don't add all the recipes in the book, I'll say this, are completely salt, oil, and sugar free. Now, do we consume some salt? Yeah, we will, but we don't add it to recipes. Here's what we do. We put a little bit on the top of our food once it's cooked, because if you add a couple teaspoons or tablespoons of salt into a recipe, tablespoons would be a big amount of salt in recipes, but I know some of you do it. To a recipe, it gets so muddled and lost that by the time that you put it on a plate or a bowl, you've got to add more salt because you can't even taste the 3 teaspoons that you added into the recipe. And so for that reason, we don't add any salt in the recipes or in the recipe ingredients. But what we do is we have salt at our table that we will take, and after the food's cooked and it's prepared and it's in a bowl or it's in a plate, we will sprinkle some on top. And if you do that, you're taking in so little salt that the type of salt doesn't really matter. I would veer on the side of not really that much. And so we'll use pink Himalayan salt. We'll use Indian black salt. We'll use we use so little that it doesn't really matter. The key is that you're putting it on after the food is cooked so that you're getting the maximum hit of saltiness without the high load of sodium. That is the key, and we do cover that in the plant-based diet for beginners. I will mention that. Sherry says, Swiss chard is my favorite. Grow lots of it in the summer. Yes, I was actually just out there in the farm. I tilted my head. The farm and garden's right there. But just was out there checking on some Swiss chard. I harvested some a couple weeks ago. I'm ready to harvest some more here this week, I think. So yeah, we love Swiss chard. I've never been really good at growing it. For some reason, Swiss chard has just been my Achilles heel in growing. But this year, I grew some good Swiss chard. It's funny, as a farmer or gardener, you try to grow something, then when you finally do, it's like thinking about when I was a little kid, winning something or winning an event, or I don't know, winning a game, and now it's like I still get to experience that feeling of joy. It's like, I did it. I won the Swiss chard battles. Sounds like you do too, Sherry. Sounds like you do too. Pam says plant-based diet is the best. B12 supplement is all we need. Yeah, very good. Hey, take your cap off so we can see you're not bald. Oh, Pam wants to see if we're not bald. Pam, I'm not bald. I was just it's kind of warm in here, or kind of cold in here, so I was just keeping my head warm with the old cap, which is from the $1 Million Vegan campaign. So my story and my interview with the $1 Million Vegan should be coming out here soon. I will be sure to share it with all of you wonderful people. Let's see here. Dawn says, my rice and beans seem to leave an icky liquid after about 3 to 4 days. Concerned. Here is the thing with keeping the beans, Dawn. Beans do not last as long, I found, as some other like rice and oats, or rice and quinoa and potatoes in the fridge. So beans will last 5-7 days for us, but we really do make sure that when we're storing beans in the fridge, we use an airtight glass container with one of those plastic, but with a gasket lids that clamp down, so that we make sure that those beans are really airtight. Because if you just kind of set them in there, yeah, they go bad pretty quickly. Here's the other thing. I also don't leave the beans in the fridge with a ton of liquid, because I find the more liquid it has, kind of the quicker it goes bad, or it spoils. The thing with rice, though, if you're cooking rice in a pressure cooker or a rice cooker on the stovetop, really shouldn't have much liquid there, or any liquid there. It should all be soaked up by the rice. So I'm not sure if you're mixing the rice together with the beans. I wouldn't really necessarily recommend that either. I'd kind of recommend having them separate and then mixing them together right before you're going to eat it. Kristen says, pre-ordered the book. So excited to hear that, Kristen. I really hope you love it. Michelle says, Gabriel has hair. He doesn't always have hair. Yes. Emily says, that was a great question. Well, I'm glad to hear that you found that one helpful there. Lynn says, love growing our own kale all winter in small hoop houses. Love it, Lynn. I'm going to have to, I don't know if you have pictures of that, or I'd love to see how you're growing your kale. I just love seeing people grow stuff. We also use low tunnels and mini or quick hoops, things like that, to grow our winter greens all winter long, either under it's covered row cover, but either with row cover, ag fabric, which keep things warm up to a certain degree at night times, and also warms things up during the day. Or also we'll use things like greenhouse material plastic on top as well. So love to hear that. Love to hear it. Richard says, I salt veggies and fruit from a shaker. Yes, as long as you're not throwing this, you're not adding it in the recipe and losing that flavor on top, is where you really want to be with it. And Sherry says, Benson's Table Tasty is a great salt substitute, and it's sodium free. I'm gonna have to check that out, Sherry. I'll have to check it out. Everybody seems to, Camille says, brown rice versus white rice. Well, Camille, that's a good question. If you are okay with either, then go with brown rice. I had this question actually yesterday, and I just want to make sure we're clear on it, that can you achieve optimal health and live a long, healthy life, lose weight, regain your health, keep your healthy body weight by eating white rice instead of brown rice? You 100% can. There's people in populations that have done that for very long times. But brown rice is going to be your best option because it doesn't have the fiber taken away. It's a whole food. It's unprocessed. And it's really going to be your best bet. But if you're someone transitioning and you really don't like brown rice, but you really love white rice, then you can have white rice. It's not the end of the world. And it's still very, it's not like you're eating potato chips. White rice is, it's had the hull taken off. It's had the fiber taken off, which is not great. And here's the deal. When you sit down to eat a bowl of white rice, you normally can eat much more than you could, say, eat a bowl of brown rice, because the white rice doesn't have the fiber. It doesn't have the whole plant form there, which is going to make it more satiating, give you, reach a level of satiety quicker. So brown rice, yes, is going to be better. And it will be best, but is it the only option? No, white rice is still okay if you find that that's the only palatable form that you like. But also understand there's dozens and dozens and dozens of simple starchy staples out there that you can really enjoy. And when it comes to rice, it's not like there's just one type of brown rice, one type of white rice. If you want to try different brown rices, there's dozens of types of brown rices. Now, you may have to go to your local international market. You may have to, just venture out a little bit to go to a different grocery store to check them out. But there are a lot of options out there I'd recommend looking into. Sherry says, I know brown rice is supposed to be better, but being part Asian, I love white rice. I usually do half white, half brown. Yeah, and if someone is transitioning and you maybe aren't used to brown rice, you could start adding in some brown rice. But again, don't get lost in the weeds. Don't lose the tree. Don't lose the forest for the tree. You're going to be okay having some rice, whether or not it's brown or white, especially coming from the standard American diet. It's a completely different ballgame, much better there. So you don't need to get lost in the weeds there. I hope that makes sense. Let's see here. Where's Bella? Did you show her and I missed it, Jan? Bella's down here by my feet. I'll grab Bella here in 1 second. 1 second, I'll grab Bella. Let's see here. Kristen says, I loved to hear your recipes are salt-free. I got to watch my salt intake due to hypertension, so now I'm even more excited. Yeah, all the recipes are salt, oil, and sugar-free. And again, completely oil-free. I recommend you don't touch oil with a 10-foot stick, kind of like the Grinch coming up here, holiday time. But with salt, don't use salt in your recipes, but there's absolutely no reason that you can't sprinkle some salt on the top of your food once it's cooked to add that saltiness, especially if you're really used to that or would like that. All right, everybody, let's see here. Yes, Sherry says don't major in minor things. We are going to finish up here because hopefully I think there is a football game. The football game's getting ready to finish. But I'm going to grab Bella. Come here. All right. They wanted to come up here and say hello a little bit ago, but then when Dad wants them to come up here, they get shy on me. They get shy, don't you? So, thank you so very much for tuning in to tonight's live stream. It means the world to me. It means the world to Bella. It means the world to Bubbles and Baby Miller and Dr. Miller to have you all so enthralled with a plant-based diet. So many people making the decision to not only change their own lives, to making the decision to change the lives of their loved ones and the people around them that they care so very much about. I'll leave you with this. When I was writing this book, I was thinking about the plant-based diet and how much a plant-based diet's helped me, right? Regaining my health, losing 100 pounds, seeing my family, my mom, dad, sister, in-laws, cousins, grandparents, friends, all adopt a plant-based diet and reach their healthy levels or regain their health, right? They never had the level of health they have now, decades after horrible standard American diets. But when I sit down and think about writing a book it was really if you can close your eyes and you think of those 3 to 5 people that mean the world to you that you just couldn't live without, that if you could do anything for them, you would, that you'd give them the shirt off your back, you'd drive across country just to help them in the littlest things because you love them so much. And when I thought about that, and I thought about, when I was first adopting a plant-based diet and seeing my own health outcomes, seeing how much it had really helped me, I could do it. I could close my eyes and say, Mom, Dad, sister, in-laws, cousins, grandparent. And to be able to now open my eyes and be at, say, our holiday get-together this past weekend and say, you know what? It's not closing my eyes and dreaming and hoping about it anymore. It's seeing it happen in real life. And that is my wish for all of you, for every single one of you, that you not only reach you regain your health, that you reach your peak level of health, but that the people that you care about and love the most in this world get to experience that too. And I think that's something we're going to leave off with tonight. Again, the plant-based diet for beginners is available for pre-order on Amazon, but it also comes out December 10th. I think Barnes & Noble has already been shipping it, and we're really excited about it. Again, thank you so very much for tuning in. It looks like our video went out on us there for a second, but we are back and better than ever. But thanks for tuning in. I am Plant-Based Gabriel here with Bella. Bubbles was on here a few minutes ago. We love you. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your night, and we will see you very soon. Remember, Plant-Based Diet for Beginners, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Angus & Robertson in Australia. All right, Amazon in the UK and Canada as well. So thank you so very much for tuning in, and we will see you in another video very soon.